Welcome to Lilac Dance.
A podcast by two disabled artists about creative expression and processing emotions.
My name is Elena, and I am a writer and a musician.
And my name is Heather, and I am an artist and a dance teacher. So today we have such a special guest with us from Detroit, Michigan. Please welcome the wonderful Jacinta Shanae, known as the Playwright Diva. Jacinta is not only a playwright, but also a screenwriter, director, poet, actress, comedian, and filmmaker.
So, Jacinta, how are you this evening?
Oh, I can't complain, thank you.
We're so excited to have you on today. You're our first guest, so this is really exciting.
Woo-hoo! I'm honored.
It's so exciting to have you. I think when we started this podcast, we really wanted to bring in people who have different experiences of creative expression and have different experiences of healing through creative expression. And when we met you at so my partner and Jacinta's partner play music together, when we met you at the show, we were like, we have to interview you.
I was so excited when you said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so go ahead, Elena, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say maybe to start out with, can you tell us a little bit about uh, some of the projects you've worked on and some of the creative work that you do?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Well, I've been doing various projects for a long time. Uh, I mean, I really don't know the sequence to explain it in because I've always been a writer all my life. I've always been in front of the mirror acting, like when I was at home all my life. Especially, I have two older brothers, and so I would be playing by myself. And so, playing by myself, I would be acting things out in a mirror type of situation. But there's some things up. I've been writing many scripts for years. I really don't even know anymore how many scripts I've written. I was wondering that the other day. Many years ago, I was like at 25, but I've written more since then. So I really
Wow.
have zero clue. And there are various genres. I really started off when I first started professionally writing them. I was writing them where they had maybe spiritual overtones of encouragement. Not
Mm,
all of them are like that anymore per se, but my common goal in my different genres, whether it's comedy, whether it's women's only, is whether it's sci-fi, whatever it is, I'm always have the goal to encourage people and to motivate them.
wow. That's so cool. And I actually really love that you brought in the spiritual overtones because it's not
Yeah.
something we've necessarily talked a lot about on the podcast, but I know that it can really speak to people's souls, touching in on that spirituality element. So I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit more about that.
Well, sure. I definitely, you know what? Okay, so I do worship God, but I also believe that reaching people spiritually, you can reach people from various cultures, various
Yeah.
beliefs. I believe in being a light and of encouragement, just because I am personally a living testimony of God's mercy, God's encouragement, God's grace, His goodness. So I believe in being a light and sharing the light. You know, a lot of people think of spirituality and religions, they think about people yelling at them and like, do right or this is wrong. No, I believe in being a light and walking in love because the God I serve is a God of love and He loves everybody. So I try to be a representation of him for people, whether it's somebody that's just has low self-esteem, whether it's somebody that's been abused, whether it's somebody that's stuck in a situation. And I believe that iron sharpens iron, just like I can encourage other people, you know, they might turn around and reciprocate that to me where they can be encouragement to me.
That's
Mm.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that you've, really dedicated your work to reaching so many different people and having these kind of overarching themes that, will really connect with a lot of different people in a lot of different circumstances. Um, and so with that, I was kind of wondering, like, how did you, I know you talked a little bit about sort of how you got your start, but I was wondering if you could elaborate a little more on kind of how you got started doing this work, whether that be, as part of,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, as part of a spiritual practice or as an artist, anything you want to share about that.
Yeah, well, it really did start in school where I would here and there write different things to express emotions. I was a quiet child, and I was a child that was picked on a lot in school. And at that time, I wasn't as outspoken publicly, at verbal face to face as I am now. So instead of like getting in fights or arguing, I would write, and a lot of the writing, sometimes I would write a skit to vent out what the situation. But by fifth, sixth grade, seventh, eighth, I started writing lots of rhymes, believe it or not, lots of lyrics. In fact, I was in many different contests and local cable shows when I was in high school, or even the
Wow.
Detroit New Dance Show. I was in a contest doing different rhymes. And I noticed it was just something that flow out of me naturally. So I went to Ludington Middle School, and it was a program that had like fine and performing arts incorporated in it. And so I had a chance then to one audition for eighth grade production where I auditioned to dance and to perform, and I ended up getting two acting roles and a dance role, and really that
Mm.
helped me even more to see like, oh, I knew then I'm like, no, I want to do this as a career. I want to do this.
Wow.
This is what I want. So I went to CAS and studied performing arts, and from there I went to college and got a degree in theater performance. And literally my senior year of college, I was going through a situation, wasn't really feeling good, was kind of stressed out. And on top of that, at the time, when I was super stressed, I had a cousin that was murdered, and it just, all of that just kind of overwhelmed me. And I was striving hard to finish school. And I literally had like a revelation of doing theater to encourage people. But I want to say in between there, I do want to know, even though I have a lot of experience in theater, film has also really been my heart for years. And
Yeah.
I just always it's just always been there. Like, if I had a chance at the time to major in film over theater, I may have very well likely went into film, but theater is a path that God took me down. So, after that, when I graduated, right after I got married, I was like, I went a few years without doing theater, and it was funny because my husband and I joined a church. Well, actually, I don't even know if I was a member, and he mentioned that I do theater. So they asked me if I could put on a production for them. So I went ahead and put on a production for them to raise money for their building. And I realized at the moment, like, I'm glad I was able to be of service, but I'm like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be doing this regularly, not just, yes, do it to help others, but it's also something I need to be doing for myself as well. So that's how I started getting into it. And from that point, I just kept on putting on shows and kept going. So that's how that's how it started flowing.
Wow, that's so amazing to hear your start, and I think it really would inspire others to lean on an artistic practice to get through hard times.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's funny. It also, for me, it brings me joy. And I hear a lot of other artists, it makes you feel good when you can do what you love, but it even makes you feel double good when you can do what you love and someone else can tell you, hey, that made me feel good too.
I just wanted to ask, like, you talked about leaning, like doing your theater like for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, like, what have you learned from that process that's different from like doing it to be of service?
Well, so let me break that down some. For me, doing it for myself is also doing it to be a service.
Mhm.
Um, the when you're doing it for others, like if somebody else approach you to do it, sometimes they're taking the lead of who you are and what you can offer, as opposed to you being in charge of it. When somebody else, for instance, let's say you come to me, hey, Jacinta, can you put on a show for us? We're raising money for such and such. And I do that. And then you have another vision for me to do something else. Well, we decided we want you to do a show for this for us. Can you do that? That's me walking into your vision and your destiny for you, as opposed to me taking control of my pathway and saying, it's on my heart to put on a show to help women who are fighting a sickness.
Mhm.
It's on my heart to put on. I believe that God gives us a vision and nobody else should be in charge of your own vision. So doing it for myself is walking out my destiny. It's still being a service to others, but it's me being in charge as opposed to letting somebody else drive.
Mm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that art that artists create that's authentically them is,
Mhm.
some of the most powerful and most,
Mhm.
some of the, what people can really connect with. So I think that's wonderful that you really pay attention to that and kind of follow what speaks to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's so many places we could go in this conversation because your artistic experience is just so rich. And like I'm relating to you about like your own vision versus someone else's vision, you know. Like with dance, like I've been asked to do choreography for example, a choir, and that's beautiful, and I love being of service, but it's a very specific vision that someone else created, right?
Right.
Making my own classes and showing up and being like excited to just come with my vision. It's a different feeling, and both are important, but you know,
Right.
there's different energies there.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So can I ask you, like, is there much funding for theater in your area?
So, you know what? Okay, so that's a complex question.
Okay.
Because there is funding, but there's I don't it's they're not standing on the corner handing it out. I've Everything I've done has been independent.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never had a situation where a sponsor or funding, with the exception of sometimes I do in my shows, I honor women depending on the topic of the show. Sometimes I've honored women maybe who overcame, let's say, alcoholism or abuse or something. So sometimes that's the thing I do where I crown women. There was a time I did have a couple people sponsor like maybe a necklace or something to give to them. So other than that, though, as far as putting on a show, I've always been independent. So I think there are, but I think that in all the arts, um, there's different circles of knowledge, and if you're not in that particular circle, you might not know how to attain the funding. So I'm sure that there is some there, but it's not like to the abundant where we're just like, oh, let me go fill this out. Okay, I have funding.
Hmm. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, a lot of what it's really the same in the dance field, and I'm sure similar in the music field. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you got to have that independent drive,
Yes.
and we all do, all three of us, like to do what we want to do. We're
Mhm.
doing it, and we're it's hard to find funding, and I want, you know, people to hear this podcast who have funding and to reach out to you, Jacinta.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
please
such a good
do.
point.
Please do.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I was just gonna say I really admire that drive to, to do your art, to share it with the world. I know for myself, I also went to music. I also I went to music school in college and stuff, and then I ended up doing something totally different because it was just so
Mhm.
hard to make a career as a musician. Of course, I'm still a musician, but not professionally, and so I just have so much respect for what it takes to you know, find all the funding like you were talking about and to be able to make that your work. It's really amazing.
Yes, thank you.
Can I ask you about a recent storyline or plot to a work that you've really enjoyed making?
Well, I'm in a process of looking to booking a location to present a show that I have called "The Things We Don't Want to Tell," um, which I originally wrote many years ago. I was looking at my original copyright and it said like 2009. So I just kind of just revamped it a little. Um, well, anyway, it's a very touching type of story because it deals with abandonment and to the point where with some storylines are so strong that I used to hear actors talk about how they play a role and how they had to shake it off. And I never really had that experience, but sometimes certain topics when I'm reading my shows, because I don't know if I mentioned this, I'm thus far I'm in all of my shows now. Whether I might make a show one day for all males, I don't know, but I'm always in my shows. So I said that to say, this current storyline, it goes back. It's definitely one about healing and restoration, and so I'm excited about that. But it definitely is touching when I'm reading over the script. It sometimes it really gets to me. Just because I can feel it in different ways. And then on
Mhm.
the other end, I have another project that I'm not going to release too much info about yet that I do plan on doing later this year that's totally opposite. Is more or less on a sci-fi Afrofuturism vibe. So I'm all
Cool.
over the place when it comes to genre. I'm not even though people have seen me on the evangelistic side, I'm really all over the place when it comes to genre.
That's so exciting.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank
It's
you.
great that you've explored so many different genres. I mean, I that's so cool. And I'm super excited about, you know, the sound of your new project. Sounds really awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, sci-fi, I'm like so intrigued by sci-fi and I'm intrigued by um heartfelt and healing and
Yes.
restorative and all of the things you're mentioning. I'm like, whoa, like when we see our stories, just general themes that we relate to, when we see stories reflected back to us through theater and film, it heals a part of us, I feel like.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think so for all the arts, absolutely.
Definitely. And this is taking kind of a different turn, so I'm sorry, Heather, if this is just a little off track, but I'm just so curious. You mentioned earlier, and I really wanted to follow up with you, that you did some contests on cable shows when you were younger. How did you get those opportunities, and what did that look like?
Um, well, one of the shows was on a channel 62 for Detroit, and they announced a contest, and I know I had the audition, but I can't really remember how I ended up auditioning. But I do remember going in and filming for it, and they would play it. They would play the dance show and play part like maybe 2 minutes of my work, and people had to vote. And it's funny because it was when they first started having like where you can use the phone and use the pound sign and skip to another vote. And it's funny because I actually would have won, except they thought my dad cheated the contest because he was hitting pound so many times fast to make a vote that it
Oh
was like an
no.
unbelievable. It was probably like 5,000 votes where everyone else had like maybe 50. So they thought my dad did something like crazy. So I ended up not winning, but I really would have. But it was still
Yeah.
a fun experience. Now the other shows, it's funny because I think yeah. two of the one show for sure. There was in Novi. They used to have a contest at some like hotel or bar or something, and my dad, both my parents actually took me there, and I performed live rapping, and these two guys were dancing, and somebody who had their TV show approached us to be on the show, and then from there, somebody else approached us to be on their show too. So that's how it happened. I was in the right place at the right time situation.
Wow, that is so cool, and great that you
I
were
love
able to have
that.
those opportunities, yeah.
Thank you.
I love that you asked about that detail, Elena.
I was so curious.
I love it. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So what would you tell someone who maybe is like curious about either starting to write a play, or maybe they want to be an actor or actress in a play, but that they haven't done it yet and theater or film is new to them. Kind of what would you say to encourage someone to get started?
Really just simply just go for it is really all it boils down to, because that's the only way you can get it is to go for it. And go for it again if you need to. There are situations where I may have applied multiple times, and but whether you get it or not, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop your talent. Like for instance, if I give you a no, it doesn't mean you don't have the talent. It doesn't take away from your talent. It just means that I'm not ready for it, or that there's better for you. So just keep going. Just try. If you don't try, you're not gonna move. You're just gonna be sitting, being stuck or complacent or collecting dust. So just go for it.
Mm.
Absolutely. You never know if you don't try.
Exactly.
So is there anything else that's on your mind, either Elena or Jacinta, that we really want to make sure we share today?
Mhm. Well, this is not necessarily on my mind, but I do want to state that although I'm definitely promote my works, I do perform in other people's shows. So if there's anyone out there, in fact, I last year. Okay, let me put it like this. I haven't concentrated on my stuff for so long that I don't know when was the last time I auditioned, but last year I was like, oh, I haven't done a show since the pandemic. I'm ready to be in something. I don't know where I'm gonna put my own show at right now. And I happened to see an audition at Birmingham Village Players for A Raisin in the Sun. And A Raisin in the Sun, Lorraine Hansberry is a
Yeah.
very classic, yeah, African American play. And ironically, at the time, it was Birmingham Village Players. Was it their 101st season? And that it was in all that time, this was the very first straight African American play that they put on ever. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I want to go audition. And I didn't know, I was actually on their site for another reason, to be honest. I was searching for places to rent for productions. And so I was like, I'm going to go. And auditions were like maybe 2 or 3 days away. And I didn't say what part I wanted, but I auditioned and I got the part I wanted. So I ended up playing Ruth in
Oh,
A
wow.
Raisin in the Sun. And I also ended up being in their show in last September, Memphis the Musical, part of the ensemble. So I'm saying that to say that I also do other people's productions as well, as long as it you know, agrees with my spirit. So I just want to put that out there because I did promote in this show about my writings, but I'm also available for other people's.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing that you've taken advantage of all of these opportunities that, you found. And I also am kind of thinking with, the what you just talked about of audition, the experience of auditioning for this show and then getting the role. You mentioned that you only had a few days between when you found out about it and decided to do it and then when you actually went. What was it like to prepare an audition in a really short time frame?
You know, um, for that particular one, it just got that one kind of lined up just really lined up in my favor. 'Cause it was one of those where I had to quickly read. I'm embarrassed to say that I had never read all the way through that script ever in my life. I'm embarrassed to say, but it was one of those things I had to quickly read and see what character I was feeling type of situation. But
Mhm.
that one was really a smooth situation. But because I've had other auditions where some people want you to learn monologue, some people want you to, they don't tell you that you just got to wait till you get there and do a cold reading. And I just really have learned at this point just to think of auditions as fun, or just it's more experience for me whether I'm getting a role or not. It's just a part of sharpening my skills.
Yeah, that's so true, because either way, you get audition experience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very neat. That makes me wonder, you've directed plays and you've been in other people's plays and you're so into this industry. I'm curious, like, coming from my own dance background, I come up with like lots of little exercises to get people to warm up to dancing. Like, are there any like theater exercises that you'd be interested in sharing today? And it's totally cool if not.
So the hilarious part is now, when I've worked with children, because I actually worked in schools myself for, oh, about for I'm just gonna say a very long time. Last year was my first year ever not doing it. It's not what I wanted to do ever, but I said that to say that there's also been times where I've done programs with children, via camps or via after school programs, and we do theater exercises. And maybe I'm just unique because generally speaking in real life, I don't do it. I really don't. I don't get into all the, the different, I learn about the different techniques and everything, but this may change, but I've never been one to stand in the mirror and say 500 times what to do to die today. I only use those type of exercises when I'm working with kids. Again, not to say that I won't do it. But it's just not me. I hear people that are method actors and performers, but not really. I would say, as far as advising people, it really depends because when I'm about to do a show or audition, I don't like people even talking to me. I like to be quiet and focused. Some people like to be hyper. So if you're someone who likes to be hyper, go for 10 jumping jacks or count backwards or shake it all out. But I don't like, I'm very focused and quiet when it comes to that time. I might crack jokes during other times, but I really take it really serious. I'm like, don't talk to me about the audition. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Do you have any specific kind of like pre-performance routine, or is it more about the mindset for you?
It's more about it's more about the mindset. Yeah, that's basically, I would say it's more about the mindset.
Hmm.
That, not to say that won't change because who knows, that could change for me.
Right.
We grow and change, but thus far, it's literally, I just kind of like, it's just like any other thing. I just step in and go for it type of situation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's honestly comforting to hear that you don't have to get up get get up and do like exercises. You know what I mean? Like, you
Right.
could, that could be for you, because like in my acting classes, I didn't major or anything in theater, but I took a couple acting classes in my lifetime, and it was all about like, try this, try that, do these exercises, and it didn't always resonate. So it's helpful to know that if I ever wanted to do some community theater or something, like, I don't have to
Mhm.
do that. I can be very focused and quiet if that's what I need. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I will tell you my two experiences with community theater. Those were my those were the only two times I ever auditioned for that particular theater. But we never did any theater exercises. Now for the musical was different because we did, we had to sing, so he gave us a vocal warm up and we stretched for dance. But as far as the acting, when I was doing a Raisin in the Sun, we never did any warm ups. So, I guess it just depends on the director and what they believe.
For sure.
No, that makes sense. I'm sure the director kind of has a lot of, I imagine the director probably has a lot of influence over the overall kind of how the performance ends up coming together.
Yes, yes.
So I totally should have asked you this in advance, but I'm thinking of it now, so better late than never. You do mention that you're a poet and you were reading rhymes, or rapping rhymes when you were younger, and I'm sure to this day, maybe. So I was just curious if you do you have like a poem or a rap memorized that you'd want to share with us?
Oh, that's hilarious. You know what? So let me see. Well, um, I don't know if I have one right off the back. There is one on YouTube, Flowers for Earth, Wind, and Fire, which is a tribute. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire, the group Earth, Wind, and Fire, and
Yeah.
I'm very inspired by the late Maurice White. I've seen them in concert 5 times, but I didn't get to see him because by the time I started going, he was already sick and then he passed on. But I do
Mm.
have that Flowers for Earth, Wind, and Fire on YouTube, which if you ever want to link that in, which is about a
Yeah.
6 minute tribute. I did it during the pandemic, and one of the original members who's still active, his manager befriended me on Facebook after I did that, and on Ralph Johnson's
Wow.
Facebook page, they thanked me.
That's
For
amazing.
that. Um, so that one, I wouldn't want to test it out because I don't want to mess it up. But I would jokingly, I can remember right off of back little when I was young, when I was like 13 and 14, I had little rhymes like, let me see if I know any of them. I have one like, I'm not the type of girl any guy can please. I need a real man to put my mind at ease. So let me tell you, baby, don't throw me no rap until you understand and learn how to adapt to my rules, and the list is large. It's stuff like that. A little
Yeah.
silly stuff, or I had one love one where my dad swore I was in love, and no, I was not. But in the eighth grade, I was daydreaming. So in class, I wrote one, and it starts off like, I was sitting in my room down by my bed, all kind of thoughts of you just circle my head. I just wanna cry, 'cause my heart is broken. They say actions speak well. I guess I've spoken 'cause my tears says it all. The more I think about you, the more they fall. Now, this is when I'm a little girl, 13. I used to say at one point, I was like, I was a better writer then than I am now. I don't say that anymore, but that writing flowed deep in me, as you can see, even back then.
Yeah, clearly you had quite a talent. I mean, obviously still do have quite a talent for words, and that's really amazing that you were only 13 when you wrote those.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny because I have to one day sit and copyright because it was back then when I realized that immediately I started copywriting my lyrics and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I need to go back because half the stuff I wrote then, I don't even necessarily remember, so many back then,
Yeah.
and so much time has passed. So, yeah. I
That's
just
so
remember
cool.
those because that's some of the ones that would perform on the shows and things.
No, I
Love that.
love that you just went for it because that's like kind of what I meant when I asked the question was just like, is there anything that you just happen to have memorized? I love it
Oh,
so much.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
I was
All
wondering
right.
if you wanted or would be willing to share where people could find you. Like, where can people learn more about you and see your work? Anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am on Facebook, Jacinta Shanae. I really do have two legit place pages, but Jacinta Shanae right now is the easiest one to find me. But I also have Jacinta Shanae, the Playwright Diva. So those are legit pages on Facebook. I am on Twitter at Jacinta777, I believe is what it is. I'm on there, but I'm not on there as much as I usually on there when I'm advertising something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, pretty much that way you can inbox me, and if someone ever needs to get in touch with me from there, I can exchange my email, things like that. But that's
Awesome.
probably the best way.
Sounds good.
Yay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you so much to Jacinta for just coming
Woo-hoo.
on and having a candid conversation with us.
Yeah, this has
We
been great.
so appreciate it. And we hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. All right. Bye, everyone.